here bringing you the best bets provided by our machine learning prediction model for UFC Fight Night Royval versus Taira. Jumping right into the fights, first off, we have Clayton Carpenter versus Lucas Rocha. Carpenter had his debut nearly 2 years ago and hasn't had a fight in the UFC since. Rocha, while not quite as long, is also on a layoff of nearly 1 year. He's had 2 canceled fights since his Contender Series win back in 2023. Carpenter is the taller man with the longer reach, and despite the layoff, the bookies still have him as a nearly 2-1 favorite. The model, on the other hand, slightly favors Rocha at -113. Next up, at bantamweight, we have Dan Argueta versus Cody Haddon. Argueta, he's 1-2 in the UFC with 2 consecutive no contests. This is Cody Haddon's UFC debut. He's coming off a rear naked choke on the Contender Series less than 2 months ago. Haddon is also the younger fighter at 26 years of age. Same height and very similar reach between the two of them. The bookies and the model are both strongly favoring Cody Haddon in this fight. Haddon prefers to get the knockout, while Argueta is more of a strong grappler. So we've got the age-old striker versus grappler matchup, and the model here favors a striker. Moving all the way up to heavyweight, we have Chris Barnett versus Junior Tafa. It's been more than 2 years since we've seen Barnett throw his impressive head kicks, and he is also 10 years older than Tafa. Tafa is 6 inches taller, but still giving up 3 inches in reach. He is stepping in as a replacement, this being a quick turnaround after his appearance in UFC 305. They're both strong knockout artists, Chris Barnett having 18 in his career, and Junior Tafa having all 5 of his victories be by knockout. The bookies don't like that at all and are giving Junior Tafa the huge edge as a -425 favorite. The model, though, doesn't care about long layoffs or 6-inch height advantages and sees Barnett coming away with a massive upset. Moving back down, at welterweight, we have Niko Price versus Themba Gorimbo. Niko Price is 2-3 in his last 5, and age looks to be slowing him down. Gorimbo has won 4 of his last 5, and he has a very small 1-inch edge in both height and reach. While similar in age, Niko Price is definitely the more experienced, but also more worn fighter in this matchup. Gorimbo's grappling skills will probably have Price in trouble at some point during this fight. The odds makers agree. The model even more strongly agrees, having Gorimbo as a prohibitive favorite at -355. This is a very strong indicator from our model, as we do not often see odds with this big of a spread. Next up, we have Jonathan Pearce and Pat Sabatini at featherweight. Pearce is 3-2 in his last 5, with those 2 losses having come in his last 2 fights. Sabatini is 3-2 in his last 5, both losses by first-round TKO. He also has 7 rear naked chokes on his record. Pearce, while not a standout grappler, does have 2 submission finishes, but he also has 3 submission losses. This should indicate that Sabatini is the stronger grappler and should have the advantage. But Pearce does have the opportunity. If he can keep it on the feet, he should have a massive advantage there. They are similar in age, while Pearce has a height advantage and a small reach advantage. The book thinks this will be a reasonably close fight, coming in at -135 for Pearce to +115 for Sabatini, and the model is not far behind, still favoring Pearce, but at a slightly smaller advantage. With that, we're taking the Pearce bet and hoping that he can accomplish his goal, keep this as a standing battle, and potentially even finish Pat Sabatini. Moving on, we have Chidi Njokuani versus Jared Gooden. Njokuani broke his losing streak in his last fight, coming back from a 3-fight skid. This is Gooden's second run in the UFC. Back between 2020 and 2021, he went 1-3. So far, he is 1-1 this time around. Gooden is the younger fighter, but he is also slightly smaller, having a 3-inch height disadvantage and a 3-inch reach disadvantage. The bookies seem to be favoring Njokuani's size and power and his knockout ability, while the model sees the younger fighter in Gooden having the advantage in the grappling. If he's able to hang with Njokuani's striking, or if he's able to cause a scramble and find Njokuani's back, he could be in a good position to win. At middleweight, we have Josh Fremd versus Abdul Razak Alhassan. Both of these fighters have been up and down recently, with Fremd going 2-3 in his last 5, and Alhassan being 2-2 with 1 no contest in his last 5. All 12 of Hassan's wins have come by KO, TKO, with only 1 coming outside of the first round. Fremd, on the other hand, is 9 years younger and has the advantage in both height and reach. The bookies see Alhassan as having the slight edge, giving him a -155, while the model is tilting slightly the other way, having Josh Fremd as the -129 favorite. This fight is very likely to be a striking battle, but once again, if Fremd is able to create a scramble, he does have a chance to get Alhassan out of there. Back at welterweight, we have Daniel Rodriguez versus Alex Morono. The recent record of these two show that they won't be making title runs anytime soon, but what they will do is walk forward and throw heat at each other. Rodriguez is currently on a 3-fight losing streak, but he does have 8 KOs on his record, but hasn't stopped a fight since July of 2021. Morono is 3 years younger, but it does seem like his career is catching up with him, as he seemed to slow early in his last fight. The bookies are giving D-Rod the edge here as a -190 favorite, but the model likes Morono, slow Morono, as the -161 favorite. This fight doesn't have any implications for the future of the UFC, but with any luck, it should be a banger and a fight for the fans. In the only women's fight on the card, we have Cory McKenna versus Julia Polastri at strawweight. Since coming into the UFC off of a Contender Series win in 2020, McKenna has gone 3-2. She got a very nice round 2 Von Flue choke against Miranda Granger, but then gave up an armbar in the first round only 2 fights later. Polastri got her shot in the UFC by securing a rear naked choke on the Contender Series last year. She then lost her first fight in the promotion to the undefeated kickboxer Josephine Knudsen. This fight is a chance for her to bounce back against McKenna, who probably won't be afraid to grapple with her. These women are very close in height, with Polastri having the reach advantage of 4.5 inches. Polastri is coming in as a late replacement in this fight, but the book still gives her the slight edge as the -125 favorite. The model does not like that late replacement for Polastri and is giving the edge to McKenna as a -132 favorite. Go ahead, use the restroom, make a sandwich, crack another beer. Hopefully, when you get back, you'll find out one of these girls got the submission finish. Next at lightweight, we have Grant Dawson versus Rafa Garcia. Both fighters are very strong grapplers, but Garcia has not shown to be strong in his takedowns, and his striking leaves a lot to be desired. Garcia has only been able to find a single submission since entering the UFC, while Dawson has 2 in just his last 5 fights. Dawson seemingly has the advantage everywhere in this fight, and the bookies agree, having Dawson as a strong favorite at -440. For whatever reason, the model does not agree, has this as a very, very close fight, but giving the slightest of edge to Rafa Garcia. If there's any way we're going to win this wager, unfortunately, it's going to be a long, drawn-out, boring decision, because that's the only way Rafa Garcia has been able to win lately. Back at middleweight, we have Brad Tavares versus Yong Park. Tavares has either been winning by decision or getting TKO'd recently. Although he did have 1 decision loss to Duplessis, time has shown that DDP's nose really was an issue, and if that fight was rematched today, it probably would not go the distance. Park is a big fan of rear naked chokes, having 3 in his last 4 fights and 6 total in his career. Tavares has never been subbed, but I doubt he wants Park anywhere near his back in this fight. Tavares is the taller and longer fighter, but he is also older and much older in fight age. He's been fighting in the UFC since 2010, and that definitely shows in some of his recent fights. Jun Park had his 4-fight win streak broken by a close split decision in his last fight. The bookies and the model agree in this one. Jun Park is the favorite, The book has him as a minus 170 favorite, and the model is not far behind, favoring him by minus 151. Our only hope is that Jung Park cuts weight cleanly this week, and the doctors do not pull him from the fight. In the main event, we have Brandon Royval versus Tatsuro Taira at flyweight. Royval is coming off a loss to Pantoja, followed by a very close, maybe even questionable win over Morono. His best tools are in grappling, with half of his wins in the UFC coming by sub. Taira is still undefeated and working his way up the rankings. A win here almost certainly puts him in title contention. His 6 wins in the UFC are evenly split between TKO, sub, and decision, but his most recent win, while correctly classified as a TKO, was due to a takedown damaging Perez's knee. What we usually see when two skilled grapplers face off is a striking heavy battle, and with this fight being at flyweight, we should be in for an exciting match. Royval is tall for a flyweight at 5'9", but he is also 32 years of age. Reach are almost identical between the two, but the record is where we see the difference. Taira is undefeated at 16-0, while Royval had 16 wins, but has suffered 7 losses. In the UFC, Royval's losses have only come to champions. The book has Taira as a moderate favorite at minus 222, with a comeback of plus 187 on Royval. The model is very close, coming in with Taira as a minus 176 favorite. We're hoping to see Taira get the victory here, as this adds new faces to the title picture at flyweight. It also bodes well for his chances to win that title, because Royval seemingly only loses to future champions. Taking a look at the stats for this card, we have 12 total wagers. One fight we were not able to get the right stats on, so the model would not give us odds. Out of the 12 we could bet, we're betting 5 favorites and 7 underdogs. Our total risk is 17.17 units for a potential win of 36.12 units, or a gain of 110%, or 18.95 units. We had a big week on UFC 307, profiting 7 units. We're hoping to keep that alive and have another big week here. That's going to be it. Good luck on your bets this weekend, and let us know what you think down in the comments.